Okay, so this is Billy Baxter, and I served with Billy starting in the mid 80s through to 95, mid 95, when I left the services. So I know him reasonably well. Uh, I coached him in boxing. I was his command post officer when he was a gun number one, and you'll see some more of that in a bit. So to start with, I'm going to share my screen and show a bit of video. And it takes, well, it doesn't take too long. Then Billy's going to talk about it and take any questions. Is that good for you, Bill?
No problems.
So if we start.
What are you doing, number one? Waiting on for taping. We've got to tape up before we fire. That's all right, go back there. Give us a smile, Bill. This is the one. The next bout on your program is a light welterweight contest between, in the red corner, representing Evansbury, Lance Dominic Baxter. The referee would like to congratulate both boxers on a well-fought contest. By majority decision, red is the winner. Yeah, good to go, Billy. All clear, all clear. Lovely sound, Billy. Fucking lovely. That's it. Get it through the gears, mate. Get it through the gears. That's fucking lovely and straight, Billy, that. Keep it going through, mate. You got loads of room. Little to the left. That's the chicken. Wind on there, Billy. Wind the fucking through, mate. You are straight as a die, Billy. Absolutely fucking straight as a die. Keep it going, Billy. That's fucking awesome. Keep it going, mate. Little to the left. Billy, fantastic achievement. What do you feel about it?
Well, I feel absolutely over the moon. It's still not sunk in yet. It's a combination of a year's graft. of finding out myself my limits and the bike's limits. Full support from my family and the charities.
Now, we get loads of letters every week from punters saying they want to come here and drive around our track, and we put them all in the bin. Anyhow, we got one the other day from a chap who said that he could come here and drive our reasonably priced car round the track faster than Richard Whiteley. Now, Richard Whiteley, as I'm sure you know, is sitting at the bottom here, so you might think no big deal. But we read on and discovered that the chap who'd written the letter was blind. So obviously, we had to get him down here. We have, ladies and gentlemen, Billy Baxter. Hi, Billy. How blind are you?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, Jeremy, blind as a bat. I can't actually see nothing. I'm totally black blind. So if people close their eyes, tight shut, that is what I actually see, Jeremy.
That's how blind. Okay, now presumably you must have had sight at some point in your life to have learned to drive a car.
I did indeed. I was a soldier. I served with the British Army with 1 RHA for just short of 21 years. I lost my sight while serving in Bosnia in 1997. I contracted a very rare eye disease that ate both my optic nerves.
Well, I think it was a very brave thing to write to us and say that you could do this. Okay, so we got Billy down. And we gave him some practice, with me obviously in the passenger seat, so left a bit, right a bit. We've got a bit of a code going between us. So, who'd like to see the result? Yes? Okay, let's play the tape. Straight. Keep it straight. Keep it straight. This is good. And straight, right click, and straighten. And left. Left. Straight. Good. Left, and right. You're in Chicago now, so right. Straighten. And go. Okay, coming up to the hammerhead in about 500 yards. Right click. Right. And straighten and go. Go. Right. No left. Sorry, and that's right. My fault. You okay? Come on, not. Right click and left. Okay, you got it. There's the bump. Yeah. Ready? Left. No, right, left. That's nice. That is nice. And straight. And left click. Last corner. Doing good. And left. And you're across the line. Now, you want to know the time, don't you?
I have no idea. I think it took us about 5 hours, didn't it?
It felt like 5 hours. That first corner.
I'll do literally, I'll put my life in your hands. To be fair to you, the screaming worked well in the end.
Yeah, no, it was just that when I said to you, because I was so relieved when you got round the first corner.
So was I.
I got left, and then thought, oh, he's done it. And then thought, oh my God, he's still going left. No, right, the other left, and the tyres are coming towards us anyway. I've got your time. Now, you wanted to beat Richard Whiteley, 2 minutes 6. You did it. 2 minutes 2 seconds. You've not only beaten Richard Whiteley, you've beaten Terry Wogan as well. Wogan has been beaten by a blind man. Was it fun from where you were?
It was absolutely terrifying. It was like my driving test, but 10 times worse. It was an amazing experience. It just shows what can be done.
Yeah, well, I think you're a fantastic person. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks for coming down. Billy Baxter.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to Dingley Dell. With further reference to the video that you saw on the firing camp that George videoed in 1992, the straight line gun position, and the firing of the last round by Abbott in Germany. I think you can remember me coming out the back of the gun with the cartridge case that me and the commanding officer, Colonel Cook, signed. Colonel Cook got the said cartridge case, the last round to be fired by Abbott, by 1RHA in Germany. Little did you know, prior to coming out of the back of the gun, my coverer accidentally switched the cartridge case. So the colonel got the second from last round. I'll leave the answers to you on a postcard. Rounds complete. Thank you, gentlemen.
So I'm just going to stop sharing that one. And Billy, I've got to show this other video.
Oh,
Sorry, mate. Can you see that
I
now?
can see it now. Yeah.
All right. So we've got, it's got to be seen. So,
I'm here to celebrating those brave men and women for obvious reasons that have combusted. Merry Christmas, everybody! It's oh yeah, son! Oh yeah!
right. Over to you, Billy.
Thank you, George. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's always very difficult to know how to start or how to begin with, my journey. So I'll take on a little journey, and at the end of this talk that I'll give you the opportunity to ask me questions, which I'll try and answer candidly. Before I start, if I let you know who I am and where I work, and that will obviously it will become as clear as a bell by the end of it. I work here in North Wales in Llandudno for Blind Veterans UK, formerly St Dunstan's. I'm the membership liaison officer. A very grand title. In essence, I work and help to rehabilitate, motivate and inspire men and women that have served in the armed forces, both the Navy, the Army and the Royal Air Force, to overcome sight loss. Being totally blind, I become their role model. If I can do something, it gives them the encouragement to know that they can do it themselves. Most of them have got some degree of sight. All the experience and knowledge that I've gained since losing my sight, I learn every day, and I draw in stock of what I've learned previously before losing my sight. I call this my second life. My first life, up to the age of 33, I was sighted, 20/20 vision. From an early age, I wanted to be a soldier, and I joined the Army. And the Army manages to get the very best out of an individual and show you with teamwork and comradeship and training and hard work what can be achieved. And the start of the presentation, you saw a very young Billy, Lance Bombardier, fighting in the regimental boxing finals with George in the corner. I think I must have been about 24, 25 years old. And, the experience of, if you've never got in a boxing ring, just putting your head on them ropes and getting in that ring, and then facing your opponent, knowing that there are only two men in that ring there, is quite a scary experience. Or the thought of going from the dressing room to the boxing ring. Which brings me nicely, and you're not going to believe this, and George has no idea I'm going to say this, but I was thinking last night of how I can link each video with my experiences now. So boxing, I really love, the noble art of boxing. You don't really get hurt in boxing. It's more of a fear factor. But unbeknown to me, when we was posted from Germany to Tidworth, I became the provost sergeant for 1RHA. For those of you that don't know about regimental life, a provost sergeant's like an innkeeper. He's like a hotel manager that looks after very naughty soldiers in the comfort of a guard room, and also injects enthusiasm to them on the regimental square, becomes right-hand man of the regimental sergeant major. Cracking job. And due to the fact that I'd had a little bit of experience by the time I got back to Britain, I was 32, 31 years old. They invited me and a former colleague, sadly not with us anymore, a diver, Kev Tooby, to go down to the regimental boxing finals at the Garrison Gymnasium. And they wanted an exhibition bout just to instruct and basically explain to the audience, mainly built up of officers and men, the rules of boxing, novice boxing. So it's called Black and White Bout. They asked me to be the black boxer, who's the nasty man that's going to break the rules, and Kev, representing the Royal Armoured Corps, because he worked at Bovingdon at the time, came in Royal Armoured Corps colours, and he was the white boxer. Boxing bouts are matched against weight. So you have different weight categories in boxing. I was light welter. Kev was light heavy. So as you get heavier, the punches get heavier. So I was up against it straight away. But just to break the ice, I remember they said, well, we need a grand entrance, Billy, when you come in the ring, just to get the audience going. It's a little bit like an icebreaker for the officers and men. So I rode my Harley Davidson into the gymnasium, big red motorcycle. I was in a motorcycle club affiliated to the Hells Angels. So I rode my motorcycle in the gymnasium in my boxing gear. I got off the bike. I think I set fire to one of the officers' legs with my exhaust. I got in the ring, gloved up, and it was all pantomime. I was drinking imaginary gin out of a bottle and all these different things. And Kev was in the corner being pristine, the smart soldier, like you saw Billy at the start there, spinning round. I was just waving at the crowd and gouging the ref. So I was holding and jumping and bouncing off the right, all the things that you shouldn't, low blows. And the last bout, the Army PT Corps left us to fight. So we had a clean bout. Round 3 was no mucking about. It was going to be an exhibition bout. So by God, did Kev punch me hard, because I got him a couple of times below the belt. So I think he got his own back. And the rounds are normally 1.5, 2 minutes. The last round, I think they let it go for about 4 minutes, and both of us were absolutely cream crackered. Unbeknown to me, the PTI, or the QMSI in charge of the gymnasium in Tidworth, was a gentleman called Steve Boswell. Now, I didn't meet this guy until several years later. I went to join Blind Veterans from Cambridgeshire to become the liaison officer. I'd gone into college on further education. Believe it or not, I studied performing arts and drama. I just wanted to get a job with the military. And the job opportunity came up with the charity to go to North Wales. I was successful on my job interview, and I went to this strange place in North Wales, turned up at the centre here. If you look up on the internet, Blind Veterans UK, Llandudno, you'll see where I work. I remember the removals driver going up the hill saying, "Bloody hell, Bill, it looks like you're going to be working in the castle." It's a lovely old building. I got out the truck and I was met by the rehabilitation manager, former soldier. That's all I knew. Next thing you know, I step up. Obviously, I'm totally blind. I get out the side door of the van at the top, and next thing you know, somebody's grabbed me by the shoulders and spun me round and said, "I bloody well know you." And I thought to myself, I recognise the voice. He says, "You, I knew I'd get you one day." He says, "You rode a bloody motorcycle in my gymnasium." And it was Steve, the QMSI in the gymnasium. He says, "I can't believe it." And that's how small the world is. So going from boxing, you then saw, obviously, the firing of the guns. One of the proudest moments of my military career was to serve on two very historical, infamous guns. The first one, when I served with E-Battery, was D-Sub. D-Sub was infamous for, on the 12th of August, or was it the 22nd of August, 1914, fired the first round at Bray during the start of World War One. And that was quite a proud moment to serve on D-Sub through the history there. And the other gun, the most senior gun in the British Army, A-Sub, the Chestnut Troop. So I was the right-hand gun. If you lined all the army up, I'd be the most senior gun. No pressure. But two extremely proud moments in my life: serving on the guns, serving with fine men, and I can't believe that's over 30 odd years ago now. And George just played the clip to me a couple of days ago to show me. And even in my mind's eye, I can see all the clips vividly of me in a boxing ring or me leaping around on the gun. Extremely fit young man. And now I'm I've got no teeth, my hair's falling out, and all my limbs ache. But the Abbot itself, you're not going to believe this. I'll just let the cuckoo clock finish. The Abbot itself came back to haunt me. Whilst working with blind veterans here in Llandudno, I think it was the second year that I was here. So when did I start working here? 2011. So 2012, we had a fete or an open day here at the centre to show the general public what the charity does, some of the training techniques, and a bit of a fundraiser for Blind Veterans UK. And I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, I was manning a stand showing about visual aids and things like that. And they said, "Oh, there's a tank in the corner." I said, "I beg your pardon?" "Well, there's a tank parked up." I said, "A tank? Show me to this vehicle, this tank." So I went up there. Where I was guided up across the showground. The vehicle obviously had arrived, prior, so I had no idea what it was. Had I heard it, I'd have known straight away what it was. But I went up there, the back of the tank, and I said, "Oh, he's the owner, Andy." I said, "Hello, Andy." I says, "What's the vehicle?" He says, "Oh," he says, "it's an Abbot." And I immediately turned to the person and I said, "Well, it's not a bloody tank, it's a self-propelled gun." And I then said to the owner, "What's the registration number of that vehicle?" He said, "Well, I'll tell you, it's 07 EB47. I said, "That would be C-Sub Gardener's Troop, 1RHA. It was decommissioned in 1992. And it was Ginge Dobson's gun." He went, "No. Do you know this vehicle?" I says, "No, it was in the same battery. It was in Gardener's Troop. I was in Salamanca Troop. I was on D-Sub." He said, "Oh, so you've worked on this?" I said, "It was my office for 10 years. So I then proceeded to show him where all the bits and all the equipment went properly. And he said, "Well, can you do anything with it?" I said, "I'll bring it into action for you if you like." And he said, the officer, "Don't tell me I'm totally blind." I says, "We'd work on this equipment in the middle of in Germany in pitch black." I says, "So there's no difference." I says, "I'm a little bit older, probably a little bit rusty." I says, "But I'll bring that vehicle into action." So I proceeded to bring the gun into action, and he then videoed me going through the laying procedure on the gun and touching all the buttons and everything else. And it's all muscle memory. So that vehicle comes up to the centre every year for our military week. So I then don my combats and become a gunner again for the day. It's absolutely bonkers and bizarre. My journey through sight loss initially was extremely difficult. I can't even put into words the fear, frustration, anger, and sense of loss that you get when you can't see. I remember waking up on the 1st of September 1997 in my quarter in Tidworth, having already lost my sight in one eye, and I've never told anybody. I woke up and I couldn't see Karen laying in bed next to me. I closed my eyes, I opened them again, and that was it. I thought, my goodness me, I can't lie anymore. I still tried to brush it off. I went out of bed, I went downstairs to make Karen a coffee. I burnt all my hands. I had 3 children at this point, Julianne, Ben and Robert. Julianne was 11, Ben was, I think, 10, Robert was 6, and I didn't want to upset the kids. Took the coffee upstairs. Karen was sitting bolt upright in bed watching me, trying to navigate around the bed. I'd made her a cup of hot water, had the spoon upside down. I was shaking a little bit, and she said, "Is everything wrong?" I said, "No, I just had a bad night's sleep, love." And she spun me around. She says, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." And I just broke down. I said, "I can't bloody see." That morning, she made arrangements for me to go to hospital. They originally thought I had a brain tumour. I later found out that I had inflammation of the optic nerves. And the only treatment available was prednisolone or drugs like a steroid to counteract the optic nerves. The same day that I lost my sight, the horse that I used to ride regularly in 1RHA was called Mavis. She was a remount from the King's Troop. She died in the paddock. She'd been kicked in the chest by a polo pony. And I think it's the same week that Lady Di had the car crash and was killed. Quite a significant milestone in my memory. I remember coming out of Odstock Hospital, having regained my sight in both eyes through this wonder drug, only for me to rapidly lose it again, consequently 4 times in 3 years, by which time the army were making byways to actually discharge me through medical grounds and sight loss. That was a slippery slope for me, because I then started to become paranoid, depressed. I was ostracized by the lads and my mates, and even my wife was. It's guilt. If a soldier's killed or somebody's injured and it's not you, you feel guilt and remorse, and they didn't know how to speak to me. Oh, what do I say to Billy? He used to ride a motorbike, used to go shooting, fishing, riding horses, dynamic lifestyle. What do we do? What do we say to him? You know, so the easiest way is not to say anything and don't visit. So my whole family were going through a complete hell. Karen, the girls in the NAFI, wouldn't even look at her because they didn't know what to say to her. And she was supporting me and my 3 children, as well as maintaining a full-time job. And we didn't know where we were going or what we were doing. And I was picked up by this charity called St Dunstan's. And when I went there, I thought, Billy, he's the only blind man in the world. Nobody knows what it's like to be blind. There's, you know, I honestly thought I was the only blind soldier in the world. And I got to Brighton, and that was through persuasion. I didn't really want to go. And I met some amazing, inspirational people. People far better than me that had overcome all sorts of things. Most of them were elderly or retired. There was a few younger ones there. But if I give you some characters that inspired me initially there, one gentleman, he he basically got me at the bar. And that's where all the counselling happens there at Blind Veterans and St Dunstan's. Guy called Fred Bentley, no longer with us anymore. He was blinded in Normandy. A German grenade took both his eyes out. He was in the Durham Light Infantry. General de Villiers used to escort Fred at the cenotaph every year. But Fred, totally blind, wanted to know who I was. I didn't realise Fred was sitting with the Black Mafia from the residence of Blind Veterans. Who's this young upstart that's come in here? Who is he? And they asked me where I was serving and my sight loss. So you'll be all right, young man. You're one of us. We'll keep an eye on you, literally. And then I met a guy, a former president of Blind Veterans UK, Ray Azan. He was a captain in the Royal Anglian Regiment, and he got the wrong end of a parcel bomb in the 70s. Blew his arm off, killed his best mate, fractured his left hand. He only had sort of 2 working fingers on it. Took both his eyes out and all but made him stone deaf. Ray spoke to me and he said, I couldn't believe what he said to me. He said, would you like to go would you like to go skiing? I says, skiing? I said, I used to ski when I could see. He says, oh, we go every year. We go to Italy with a ski club. And I thought about it, and I honestly thought it was the old services sense of humour, leg pulling and things like that. And I says, yeah, all right, not thinking anything of it. I then discovered that you could still do archery. You could still shoot rifles acoustically using earphones. There was a guy called Ray Sheriff. He was blinded in Arnhem. He swam like a fish. He was in his 80s then, and he used to do backflips off the diving board into the swimming pool there at Brighton. Mark Fredgold, like yourselves, a diver. Absolutely amazing. Another good friend of mine, Sparky. He, ex-SBS Royal Marine, he was blinded. I don't want to frighten you all, due to a wrong mix. When he went diving, I've no idea what the chemicals or the mix is, what you use for deep diving, but basically Sparky told me that the mix was wrong, that they'd done, and as a result of that, he'd lost his sight. An amazing chap, and very inspirational, still dives. In fact, Sparky's just, was it 2 years ago, with a former Royal Marine, both of them rowed across the Pacific. Absolutely amazing people. So we've got that comradeship straight away, and that services link. And I remember when I came back from my initial visit at Brighton, the life would change. I had a problem with trust, ladies and gentlemen. And this, again, is something that all of you that are listening to me this morning will relate to, especially in your hobby and sport that you do. You work as a team, whether it's on the surface, in the boat, looking at timings, you're looking at your buddies before you plop into the water, your crazy falls, and start swimming around. You look out for each other. It's a dangerous sport that you do, and that trust that you have between you and your buddy is paramount. And that's something that I couldn't relate to when I first lost my sight. I couldn't relate to anybody with sight. What do they know? What does a sighted person know? But you need to trust somebody to further yourself and to learn, especially in this second life of sight loss. So what do they do with me down at Brighton? They looked at my background, my military background, and it's all Billy rides horses. He liked going outside in the outdoors and rode motorbikes and things like this. So what we'll do, bit of reverse psychology, we'll just tell him that he's going for a trip to a stables in Rottingdean. Unbeknown to me, I went down to the stables at Rottingdean, where they introduced me to this young lady. She was about 17 years old. And I said, oh, this is Lucy. She's going to show you your horse. I said, you what? So we'd like you to get on a horse and see if you can sit on it and ride it. I says, okay, show me this animal. So Lucy says, how are we going to do this? I'll grab your arm and you lead me over to the horse. And there, the magic had started straight away because I trusted this young girl to lead me over to a beast. The horse was just shy of 18 hands. It was a Clydesdale cross called Fen. It was a mare. I said, just take me to the side of the horse. And I get emotional talking about this because I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was 21 years ago. I got the horse's head collar and I pulled the horse's head down and put my nose on the horse's nose. And I said, look, my lady, I can't see. I need your eyes. Look after me. I then proceeded to follow the horse's neck. I found the saddle and the stirrups, put my foot in the stirrup, and I just vaulted onto the saddle. A young girl's not been told anything about me. And she said, have you ridden a horse before? I said, you could say that. I have ridden a horse before. She said, how are we going to do this? I said, you will not lead my horse. I said, my horse will follow yours. I said, you just tell me where you are and Fen and me will follow you. Which is a little bit dubious to start with, thinking, crikey, I'm in charge of this blind man on this horse here. Once we got half a mile down the lane into the fields, she says, well, I'm quite competent. Would you like it to do a little bit of a trot? I says, for sure, definitely. So we was doing a trot. I says, oh, this is a bit slow. Should we do a gallop? She says, go for it. So that afternoon, I was galloping on a horse in the Sussex Downs with a young girl screaming at me to put the brakes on because the hedges were coming up. And that was euphoria. That's the first time since losing my sight that I could actually forget that I was blind and have a dynamic sort of feeling again, as well as learning trust. And you could say from there, the charity then built up on me, teaching me how to operate a computer using software, a screen reader. So I've learned to touch type. Bugger me, I couldn't even type when I could see, but I've had to learn to type and touch type on my computer, which talks to me. The technical innovations now really do help people with sight loss. I then sort of came back. Karen just noticed the change in me straight away, and I missed doing things. I really did miss doing things normally, like driving a car, riding my motorbikes, and things like that. And my kids became depressed, and I just didn't want to stop. Each time I went back to Brighton, I learnt a new skill. I volunteered to do strange things like marathon running. I know George was amazed yesterday when I said I had a thirst for running. Done the London Marathon, Worthing 20 miler. I've done the Brighton half marathon, Great North Run. It's just bonkers. It really is how one door closes, another one opens. All these skills I'm amassed and learned. Rock climbing. I'm now rock climbing again. Going out. I got rid of all my fishing tackle. I now love sea fishing. Being out on the boat or at the side of a lake, whether it's coarse or sea fishing, absolutely love it. I find that very therapeutic. And my thirst for knowledge was sort of honed when I went back to college. At Cambridge Regional College, I studied for 3 years performing arts and drama, which set me up nicely to prove to the world that Billy was able to demilitarize himself. Or I wouldn't say that is true, to be fair, but to sort of step into this strange world of civilians. So I'm still a soldier at heart, and I always will be until I die. But going into college and working with, I say, normal people, opened my eyes to the other aspects of life, which really gives me that compassion an empathy for people that I meet on a day-to-day basis. So there I was, working, doing my thing with Blind Veterans UK. Like I said, I really missed riding motorcycles, and it's something I wanted to, on my bucket list. I just wanted to throw my leg on a motorbike and ride the bloody thing. And it was skiing that did it. Skiing and horse riding, I realised I still had my balance. So, unbeknown to my alternate ideas, I asked my youngest son if I could ride his mountain bike in the football pitch in the village we lived in Cambridgeshire. He says, "What for, Dad?" So I said, "If I've got my balance, I want to ride it around the centre circle of the football pitch and then round the goalposts." "Okay, Dad." So I got on the mountain bike, and again, it was like falling off a log. I had my balance, and all I needed is Robert to say left a bit, right a bit. "Oh, stop, Dad." Which he did. I then rang up my mate, Graham Footer, who was in LM Battery, who was posted to the regiment, I think in when was it, George? 95, 96, something like that. I can't remember when the L Battery came. And I remember ringing Graham up, who was the team leader of the Flying Gunners, Royal Artillery Motorcycle Display Team at Woolwich. And I rang him up. I said, "Hello, Graham, it's Billy." So, "Hello, mate, how's it going?" I says, "Not too bad." He says, "Are you settling into Civvy Street?" I says, "Well, I says, "Look, I've rung you up. I've got a favour to ask." He says, "Well, anything for you, Billy? What is it?" I went, "You can regret saying that." I said, "I'd like to come up to Woolwich and ride one of your motorbikes." And there was just deadly silence on the telephone. And he said, "Billy, when I knew you in the army, you was Sergeant's Mess manager." That's another story. I was going blind doing that job. That was chaos. He said, "I distinctly remember you pouring a glass of port, or not, just pouring the port on the tray, missing the glass. Said you had bad eyes." I said, "I'm totally blind now, Graham." He went, "Bloody hell." He says, "Look, leave it with me and I'll ring you back." He rang me back. He said, "Anybody else, Billy, I'd have just fobbed them off." He says, "But please come down and we'll talk about this." So I went down to Woolwich. They put me on a quad to start with, just to see if I was all right. They had somebody sitting on the back of the quad, and they realised that obviously I could operate the machine, no problems. It's, again, muscle memory, second nature, like driving a car or falling off a log. Just need instruction. Left a bit, right a bit like diving blind, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it really? And it's having that trust. He says, "Right, this afternoon we'll jump on one of the little DR 250s and we'll see if you can ride that." So I was a motorcycle instructor in the army. So again, riding a motorbike, like falling off a log. So I jumped on the bike in that afternoon and at slow speed, with somebody on the back. I think one of the younger lads drew the short straw. You're going to sit on the back of a blind man on a motorbike. They need their heads testing. Anyway, we got round without killing each other, nicely around the car park. The team officer, I forget the name of the officer now, in charge of display troop, was overseeing this. He was watching it, as well as Graham. And he said, "Wouldn't it be great if we got Billy, I know he's a civilian, to join the Flying Gunners and do some displays and shows around Britain with us?" So I became a member of the Flying Gunners Royal Artillery Motorcycle Display Team as a blind rider. In the background, one of George's oppos on the command post, a very good friend of mine called Paul Gower, Gargamel. He is an infamous soldier in 1RHA, like me, always in trouble. But he loved his motorbikes, and he was a member of the Flying Gunners for many years. And he left the army. He'd run the wheelie school in Bovington, in Hemel Hempstead, on an old airfield. And he said, "Billy, I've done some research." He said, "There's a land speed record for a blind motorcyclist." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, it stands at 78 miles an hour. Bloke did it on a Triumph." I said, "Oh, what are you telling me that for?" He says, "I reckon you could nail that." I says, bloody hell, Gaz. I says, I don't know. He says, well, think about it. It's solo. You've got to just beat 78 miles an hour. So that's where the idea was hatched. And the team got behind me. We were sponsored by Kawasaki that gave me the keys to the, as you saw in the video, the ZX12R, the Ninja, 196 brake horsepower, and capable of a top end of 186 miles an hour. And Mark Lambert gave me the keys to it, having watched me practicing on different machines on an airfield, which Gaz run his wheelie school from. August the 2nd to 2003 at Boscombe Down, a very hot summer's day. We broke the world land speed record for a blind rider at 164.7 miles an hour. We only wanted to achieve over 150 miles an hour. Ironically, we bounced the motorcycle off the rev limiters and the speedo at 186 twice, but the telemetry on the Guinness World Record tracker was corrupted. So when they were downloading the information on the laptop, because it's all done very scientifically, so it's fair, it was corrupted. So we had to go at the lower speeds. We did 5 runs. And then we put the bike to bed. We haven't rested our helmets. We're still looking at doing a further project when this dreaded pandemic leaves. We're probably looking at going to America, to Salt Lake, on a similar machine called a ZX14R, which will get me over 200 miles an hour. Now, this land speed record was a culmination of 18 months hard work, working as a team, various times, and there is a DVD or a film from Men and Motors with this documentary, but I'd lost my bottle a couple of times on the bike. And again, it's mind over matter. They took the large machine off me and put me on a little moped with an open face helmet that would do about 25 miles an hour, but on full stretch, it'd feel like you're doing 185 miles an hour. So psychologically, you're thinking you're doing 120, 140, 150 mile an hour. You're only doing about 30. So it puts you back in the mindset. So when you get back onto the real machine, things become a lot easier. And it's very, very small baby steps. You can't just throw your leg over it. You've got to gain that trust with your outriders. And that, again, is taking trust to an extreme. I'm extremely lucky with the people that I've known in the past or people I've met, that have really helped me along, inspired me and encouraged me. The world sat up and watched this blind lunatic riding a motorbike thinking it was, suicidal or crazy. It's probably more dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, for me to cross the road every morning going to work, especially now with electric cars and everything else that's going on. You literally do take your life in your own hands when you're blind. Life is quite scary at times when you're walking around, and that's overcoming that fear. One of the relating back to those videos, the feeling that I had in the boxing ring prior to the bell going, that knot and butterflies in your stomach, and anybody that doesn't have that, is a liar. I had that same feeling the first time that I walked down to the shops with my long cane. I had that feeling, exact same feeling, overcoming that fear, or doing something unknown, or standing on a stage reciting some lines. It's that same inner fear that you get in your tummy. And I think I'm addicted to it. Top Gear came along. I thought that was a wind up. I got a phone call out of the blue by one of the research team. And this is unknown to the general public. So you've got an exclusive here, guys. The researchers of Top Gear rang me up and they said, "Oh, is that Billy? My name's Susan, from the research from the BBC Top Gear programme. We'd like you to come and drive a car for us. And I said, don't be so bloody stupid. And I put the phone down 3 times on it, thinking it was somebody winding me up. Eventually managed to keep me on the phone for long enough for me to gain interest. And they said, look, please don't put the phone down. This is not a wind up. We had a blind man that wrote into the show, an absolute nightmare. He wouldn't listen to instruction. He had his own agenda. He wanted this, he wanted the other. And basically he rolled the bloody car because he wouldn't listen to instruction. We know that you can ride motorbikes. Can you drive cars? I says, well, I can drive a car as easy as I can with a motorbike. I just need that instruction. Well, they sent a car for me. I went down to, where's it? Oh, crikey. I'm trying to think of the track, Dunsfold. I think it's Surrey, somewhere like that, Dunsfold anyway. I went down there and they introduced me to Ben Collins, who happened to be the Stig at the time. There was no production team there at all, just going down there just to see if I could drive the car around the track at Dunsfold. So I met Ben Collins, the Stig. It was quite funny, actually, because I went down with Paul Gower and my young son, Robert. And Stig, he left his balaclava on. He said, I better leave this on. He says, because if not, Paul and Robert will clock who I am. Anyway, within minutes of getting in the car, Ben, so I refer to Stig as Ben, realised that I could drive the car as easy as falling off a log. All he needed to do was organise instruction with the steering wheel, left click, always or click hold, left click hold, straight, left. And then just me gaining confidence and him gaining confidence as we was going round. He threatened to punch me every time I said sorry or lifted my foot off the accelerator. We got the car around mostly in 3rd gear around the course. He was jumping up and down with anticipation, saying, bloody hell, you've nailed Whiteley's time already. You've not even driven in anger yet. The footage that you saw on the Top Gear programme was me with a Stig, not with Jeremy Clarkson. However, having said that, Jeremy Clarkson had pulled rank. I was meant to go around with Richard Hammond. But Jeremy had obviously seen me not roll the car, listen to instruction, got feedback. This guy will do exactly what you're telling him to do. And the Stig's a racing instructor. He says, I wish my drivers would do what you do. He says, because you're doing literally what I'm telling you to do. You're trusting me and the vehicle. So we did that. On the day, Jeremy Clarkson jumped in the car for the filming. And Stig said, don't hold the horses back. He says, I want you to scare him. And I made Jeremy Clarkson scream going around the track. We had a great time going around. He very nearly killed us through the follow through with the tyres because he literally said left instead of right, the silly bugger. But we got round the track. The fastest time that I did, one of the production team put the wrong time in the box, 2 minutes 2. It should have been 1 minute 58. But there we go. That's by the by. We managed to do that, but it was an amazing experience there on the Top Gear track. Went there several times to do the practicing. From there, I then went to Donington. I became the first blind man in the world to take a motorcycle around the British Superbike meet at Donington solo. I think my lap time was 7 minutes 15 seconds, and Valentino Rossi does it in 1 minute 31. But I met Valentino Rossi several times, and he called me crazy and said he couldn't actually do it. He says he remembers going down the kitty litter at Redgate, looking over his shoulder because he couldn't see where he was going. But again, the motorcyclists and the motorcycling world gave me so much encouragement and inspiration. I sat in 2002 at Brands Hatch with Carl Fogarty as he launched his FP1 in front of 100,000 fans. I was in the pit garage with him. I've met Jamie Whittam, Steve Parish. I mean, the list's endless. These guys were my heroes. All of them giving me encouragement, which really helped me. The Top Gear side of it, working at the centre, again, having a drink's dangerous in Blind Veterans UK. You'll have a quiet beer with somebody and then you start reminiscing or swinging the lamp. And I said one day to my mate Kev Alderton, who's ex-Honourable Artillery Company in Grenadier Guards, Kev, I miss doing drill. He says, what do you mean? I said, I miss doing drill, Kev. I said, at the Cenotaph or on Remembrance Day, I absolutely hate hanging on to somebody's elbow being guided. I said, I just want to bloody march on my own. You know, swing my arms. I even want to get my stick out and do some pace sticking because I'm a former drill instructor like George. And I said, it's muscle memory. It's second nature. Leave it with me, Bill. Oh, a little chat. And I thought nothing of it. Next thing you know, getting a phone call from headquarters for Blind Veterans UK in London. You're invited to come down to Wellington Barracks to meet the Garrison Sergeant Major. Oh my God. Next thing you know, I'm on Wellington Barracks Square with the Garrison Sergeant Major and Drum Sergeant Major, Kev, myself, and a Matlow, who's also blind. Kev's, he's got visual impairment as well, with pace sticks. And we worked out that we could still stick. So we formed a pace stick team and we took part in the World Pace Stick Championships. We had to go through like all the other teams in the regions. Civilians aren't allowed to take part in the military pace stick competition. They amended the rules for us, knowing that we're going to take this seriously. So it was in mufti, blazer, grey slacks, tie and all the other bits, and our pace sticks. So we qualified for the World Championships at Sandhurst, and we came in the top third. We even beat B Company, the Scots Guards. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I've got something that it's something again that we all did, and just to show that you can overcome sight loss. I could go on and on about some of the inspirational people that I meet on a day-to-day basis with my job. At the moment, during the pandemic, I'd normally be working in the centre, helping to train and helping to inspire and motivate newly blinded men and women that have been in the services, both young and old. But now, due to the pandemic, the centre's closed at the moment here in Wales. So I'm working here in what I call the armoury, my little room here, manning the telephone and the computer, supporting members in Essex and Hertfordshire. Sounds ironic, but I link up with local authorities to make sure that individuals getting their food parcels, medication, if they're, if the wheels are falling off, I can call in the cavalry for them, and it's having that moral support for each other within the charity. It's such an inspiring job. Some of the members I ring up. One of them, Ron. He's 102, lives on his own, 102, and he's virtually all but blind. He hasn't got much hearing, but he's getting on with life. Granted, once a day his daughter will pop in. I think she's on the bloody Zimmer frame. Another one of our members, Mike Tetley, he lives just outside Oxford. He is a physiotherapist, and he's still practicing. He's 94. Unbelievable. Totally blind. Lives on his own. He's got his own surgery. Again, his daughter keeps an eye on him. He has a cleaner that comes in. But even during lockdown, he's been practicing. Mainly with people that he knows, with back injuries or one thing or another, or sports injuries. Amazing people. They really are. So I could go on forever and a day, but I'll open up the floor to any people in a moment to ask me a question. It's very difficult to sum up your life, but my life has been shaped by inspirational people that Billy Baxter has met from day one. And that day one is when I first joined the army, having the privilege of serving with 1RHA with some amazing men and women that have encouraged me. I've been in trouble with, I've drunk with, I've been away on exercise with, I've got dirty with, I've been away on operations with, you know, and I remember all of these individual characters so vividly. I really do. And I know we've lost a few through one thing or another. But those of them out there that know me, I love them all because they shaped my life as Billy Baxter. 1RHA is an elite regiment of the British Army, especially with the gunners. And I think that takes a special type of soldier to join that regiment because it encourages you to get out your comfort zone and to go that extra mile. Those traits got me through my sight loss, as well as the love and care and support of Karen, my wife, and my family. I've now got 5 granddaughters with Julianne. They've got no electricity in Suffolk, I don't think, but she's got 5 young girls from 16 down to the youngest Ella, who's 2. My sons, they're now independently living in Ely. And it just shows you that through these people that encourage you and support you, Karen keeps in touch with everybody on Facebook, so you see some of the strange things I do. Since being here in Wales, I've not left on my morals. I've got myself in trouble again. I always get myself in trouble. I can't keep my gob shut. When was it? 2013. One of the town councillors had come up to the centre, and I'd take tours around the centre, which amazes people. How does a blind man know there's a picture on the wall there or whatever, or where that step is? And I got invited to go down to the town hall. I thought I must be in trouble. I'm not paying my poll tax or something. He said, Billy, we'd like you to apply for the post of town crier. And I looked at him and I said, Frank, I do not want to be town crier. He says, whatever not. He says, I'm not Welsh and I'm not 6'4". He says, but we've applied in the papers, local press, and nobody's uptake. We've got nobody daft enough to do it. But you've got a loud voice. Would you give it a go? I says, well, until you find somebody proper, I said, I'll give it a go. He says, we looked at you, you know, they said that you've got a loud voice. There's the bell. I was in the town hall there, Lloyd Street, and I just gave it a little tinkle and an oh yay. He says, you've got the job. And it's amazing. I love people. It confuses the hell out of the kids here in the summer. So I'm walking around in my tricorn hat and my breeches and stockings, buckled shoes. A little bit like my uniform in the army. And the kids all think I'm a bloody pirate. So I'm trying to correct them all. No, I'm not a pirate. I'm the town crier, you little sods, right? I normally shout at people for feeding the seagulls, which are horrendous things. They leave me alone, but it's a great... I just love life. This, going back to the spirit of my military career, it's got me through some very dark times. At times, I just want to end it all. I'm not going to be a gamekeeper anymore. I'm not going to get promoted or posted, but I've got the next best thing being here, doing what I do. It's got me through this pandemic. It's given me the strength to encourage other people that have fallen flat. And we've all had testing times during this pandemic and COVID, strains on relationships and everything else, working from home, all the other pressures. It's hard, but I know we will get through this. We will get through this. Each and every one of us are winners. You're winners with the club that you're in now. You've got common interest. You've got that comradeship and friendship that will pull you through. A lot of people out there in that wide world haven't got that rich life that we have, that network and support that we've got through friends, both young and old, and partners and relationships, and it's family. 3 types of family I've got 3 families. I've got my immediate family, Karen and the kids. I've then got Blind Veterans UK, which is my adopted family, and my old family, 1RHA, the army. Absolutely amazing. I'm very, very lucky to have that. So how dare I sit back and say I hate life? I don't want to get on with it. It's been a long journey. I'm still learning. George, thank you all for listening. You've probably put me on mute, and I've been talking for the last hour to nothing, but there we are. Thank you,
Billy. Thank you so much for doing this today. The one thing, or the one question I would imagine that everybody's got, and it's it's massive. Can you just explain why you went blind?
Certainly, George. I was battery quartermaster sergeant for AE Battery in Bosnia in 1996. When the United Nations pulled out of Yugoslavia, NATO took over, and they labelled the force the Implementation Force, I4. Later became S4. And long story short, Yugoslavia was divided into 3 sectors by the United Nations Council: Croatia, Serbia, and Bosnia. And each one of them wanted a large part of the pie. And you hear the stories of genocide and ethnic cleansing. Again, the sights and images that you probably relate to on the television of these little enclaves that have been shelled and blown up, holes in the side of houses, washing still billowing on the line, undrunk cups of coffee on the kitchen table with a load of detritus scattered around. What you can't see on the television, you can't appreciate the smell of death, whether it be the remains of a family that's been slaughtered in the back of the garden, or the whole contents of a village or hamlet that's been buried in a mass grave. We collected evidence for the War Crimes Committee out there. My job involved supplying and supporting 580 officers and men in a front artillery support unit, AE Battery, that basically told the Serbs if they didn't behave themselves, they'd have 6 96-pound shells coming in their ear holes in about 11 seconds from an AS-90. So it was basically enforcing peace out there. We were lucky we didn't have to shoot many artillery pieces, only on extreme cases. And the working with the local civilians, it's not all just walking around with weapons. It's collating evidence, rebuilding bridges, schools, electricity supplies, water supplies. We even had the Army Veterinary Corps out there introducing breeding program for cattle and sheep. All these things that you don't really see on the television. And it's highly likely that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I had a visible bacteria or a virus on my hands from the ground, or something contaminated that I picked up. Hot day, perhaps, sweat in my eyes, and I rubbed my eyes. That simple act infected both my optic nerves. They don't know whether it is a result of virus or decontaminating substance on the ground or a chemical. They still don't really know, but the diagnosis they gave me was bilateral neuroretinitis, or what they used to call in the old day corpse eye. It's the old grave robbers used to have black gloves for that simple reason. But you're in a war-torn country, in a war environment, you're busy people. Sometimes you don't think, and it's just that one moment that you don't think that it's got you. Wrong place, wrong time, and that was the undoing of me, really. I carried on out there. I'd gone blind in one eye out there, not told anybody, because I didn't want an early bath, didn't want to be sent back. I was doing a worthwhile job. I loved being a soldier, and that was it. It was that was a sort of slippery slope down from there. It's denial, I think, more than anything, and sight loss I call as a living bereavement. Not only for the individual that loses a sight, but for your loved ones, my wife and kids, and my family went through hell and back. You know, they didn't know how to relate to me. They didn't know what to do, and Karen couldn't understand why I'd lose me rag because she's moved the TV remote to the other arm of the chair, or the kids didn't know why I was to go off on one because they left glasses in the sink, or moved me cup. And now, as you learn and grow to learn your limits, you can get away with all sorts. But here's a quick tale for you. I remember telling Robert off at school because he'd given up at school. He says, "Why should I bother learning at school?" He says, "My dad can't see me anymore. He can't see me playing football. He can't see me doing this, and he can't see me doing that. My other mates' dads play football with them. I just want to give up." And I remember really giving him a telling off and say, "You treat me like any other dad." I said, "I'll prove to you that even though I can't see, I can still do something and more than the other dads." So that encouraged me. And then the little bugger the following morning swapped the Cheerios for Go-Cat. So I tipped fucking cat food in my bloody cereal bowl, and I've got my taste buds have all gone. So I was eating bloody cat food. I kept knocking the cat off me, and the bloody little sod had swapped the bloody Cheerios for Go-Cat. I thought, yeah, he's coming to terms with his sight loss quite well now, isn't he? Sorry, George.
Fine, Bill. Yeah, but wasn't it to do with the mass graves as well that you were dealing with?
Yes, there were mass graves in and around Sanskimos. So thousands of people disappeared. Moss McConaughey's, for example, the mine. There's 2 villages in the bottom of that mine shaft. They'll unfortunately never be able to exhume them bodies. I shot a lot of dogs while I was out there as well. I think my tally in the end was 87 feral dogs. A lot of them had rabies. They run around with body parts. Again, I wouldn't think twice of just picking up the carcass and then throwing them on a fire to burn them. So again, it could have been anything. It could have been a tick, a flea off the dog. The army come clean, said it's our fault. We broke you. We will give you a war pension. However, I never got a penny compensation with my army insurance through PAX. Never paid up. I remember going on my discharge meeting. Captain Farr was on there as well with me. He'd lost both his legs in the first tour of Bosnia. He was blown out of his Warrior by a Serb tank, and he lost both his legs. They wouldn't pay him either. They said it was an act of terrorism. It was before the war started. He was there as United Nations. But he was lucky. He could stay in and operate a mahogany tank, a desk. But unfortunately for me, I had to be discharged. They've got no job vacancies for blind soldiers. I did try. Sorry, George.
No, thanks, Bill, and really appreciate it. Has anyone got any questions for him?
Hi, Billy. It's Tony. It's a fantastic talk. Great to hear from you. There's quite a few look like display piece guns behind you. Do you shoot? You said it was possible.
Yeah, so I do acoustic rifle shooting, archery. I've got flintlock pistols behind me. I collect weapons and armor and sharp pointy things, swords. Mainly interested in Civil War, English Civil War, that period. Charles I, Charles II, Oliver Cromwell. Jacobean, possibly. I also reenact by using dressing up in World War I uniform. My charity, Blind Veterans UK, was formed in 1915 as a result of men being gassed on the Western Front. So as education projects, I wear the full 9-yard, all the proper uniform from World War I, the old brown boots and the old cloth cap. I've got the bandoliers, I've got the sidearm, the pistol, and all the other bits and pieces. And we show the kids and the members what the uniforms are like. It's so difficult to pack your 1157 with no man-made fibres in it, zips, Velcro and plastic. You can't use that nylon. You have to use wool, string, and all sorts of things. It's amazing. So I do that. I've got an old 303 Mark 1 Lee Enfield deactivated. I've got a Smith & Wesson pistol. They don't fire, you'll be pleased to know. But you're on about shooting, Tony.
Yeah.
I took a soldier who is very inspirational to me. Hang on, let's put that out on there for it sits on there. Called Sean Stocker. He was 19, Afghanistan, stood on an IED, lost both his legs and a good part of his sight. Lives in just outside Wrexham. He was going through a very bad sort of stage in his life. As you imagine, this young lad's lost both his legs and his sight. And the thing that scared him the most, and he remembers telling me he's got some degree of sight now, he says, was the thought of losing his sight completely. He can handle losing his legs and other bits, as you can imagine, not just a lower leg injury, there's other bits that cop it as well. No. He was going through a dark patch. Steve Boswell, who was rehab manager, he's gone to another charity now, but Steve said to me, can you cheer Sean Stocker up? He says, budget's no worry. He says, within reason. He says, get one of the girls to take the car, go down to Wrexham and organise a day out for him. So I went down there. I said, Sean, what you like doing? You like me, like fishing or whatever? What do you miss doing? He says, oh, I like to do some, I like shooting. So I put it the back of my mind and I went down there and says, right, we'll do some clay pigeon shooting. So I've done clay pigeon shooting in the army and I've not, in seriousness, picked a shotgun up since losing my sight. It's about 4 or 5 years ago now. So I remember ringing up a guy called Dean from Sealands, North Wales Shooting Club near Queensferry, asking him if I could go down there to do some clay pigeon shooting and take one of our members. He says, any problems with it? I said, well, my mate, he's got no legs. He's in a wheelchair. He's got some degree of sight. He'd like to have a go at clay pigeon shooting. And Sean had no idea I was doing this. And then Scott, he said to me, he said, Dean, he said to me, he said, have you got any problems? I says, yeah. I said, we're coming down with the driver. I'm totally blind. Oh my God, he said. Anyway, we turn up and Sean, we get Sean. He says, where are we going? I says, oh, it's a surprise. So we end up at Sealands and he starts getting excited when he sees the old clay ranges. So Dean, as soon as I got the rifle, it's like riding a motorbike, the shotgun, straight in there. He says, you've done this before. He says, it's going to be a gamekeeper for crying out loud. So how are we going to do this? I says, well, you just point me in the right direction. So I held the gun and then it empty and then he'd say, pull, the clay would go down the line and then he'd look behind me and just say, right, when you say pull, split second, lift the gun up and then squeeze. Well, bugger me, the first clay that we did live, I buddy dusted it. And then the next 4 I missed because I got too excited. But Sean did it, and that was it. And that was a turning point for Sean. He's he calls them. He's had implants in his bones in New Zealand, or is it Australia? And he's got these bionic legs. It's like Robocop. He's an amazing chap. He's climbed Snowdon. He's done all sorts of fundraising events, as well as a motivational speaker and working a lot with the prisoners in Wrexham. Amazing chap. He's turned his life around with a charity. Sorry, Tony, I digressed there a little bit, didn't I?
No, it's great. It's great stuff. It's good to hear. So on the motorcycle, on the speed record, I think George mentioned in one of the things he posted that you'd lost the record and you're going to get it back.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. There's a guy, if you go on Wikipedia, you'll see some idiot called Stuart Gunn that claims that he's beat my record. It's complete fabrication by the Sun newspaper. This guy was cited. It wasn't even ratified by Guinness. But my record was officially beaten, I think, 2 years ago by a young lad called Ben in Australia, totally blind. He beat it by, I think, 1.5 miles an hour. So next time we go out there, we'll knock it over at 200, hopefully.
Yeah, I was surprised to see you doing that on a track rather than I thought you'd be on salt flats. So you're saying you're going to salt flats next time.
So just to give you some background, why we did it at Boscombe Down, another inspirational character was a guy called Ken Moss, a police officer, lost both his sight in a road traffic accident. He took a modified MG sports car and drove that 131 miles an hour at Boscombe. His helmet was a modified missile guidance system. So it worked on warbles, left, right, and at the back of the helmet. I just wanted a human voice. So we used radio comms. Boscombe Down is the longest airfield in Britain. The people there, the staff at that runway near Salisbury, removed the rag lines at the top and bottom end of the airfield. A rag line is a wire cable that arrests an aircraft if it overshoots the runway through mechanical failure. So that gave me an extra 200 yards stopping distance. Takes me about 1.5 miles to stop the bike, because you can't, once you ease off, put the brakes on, because the bike then becomes unstable. You're then pitching left and right all over the place. So you just got to scrub the speed off. In your mind, you just want to hang on to the brakes, stop the thing, jump off and scream, but you can't.
And did you work out, if you got your 158 on the Top Gear track, did you work out who else you'd have beaten?
Yeah, I'd have beaten Harry Enfield, a couple of others on there that was on that original scoreboard. So would have knocked quite a few off that list.
You moved quite a long way up, I would have thought.
Yeah, it would have been, I think. But I know Ben was extremely upset that they'd put the wrong time down. But there we go.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing with us. It's great to hear.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, Christ. I don't believe this. My phone's going off.
Okay.
I've just turned that off. Sorry.
Right. Has anyone else got any questions for Bill? Who's asking you the question?
So, Billy,
yes,
when are you going to dish the dirt on George?
Oh, crikey! I haven't got enough time to tell you some of the things. Yeah, poor old George's wife Carol. I remember being in the Battery Bar once. It was either her birthday or somebody's. We all drank out of her shoe. I don't think she's ever been the same since. Oh crikey! I just no. George is one of them chaps that he gets away with it. You see, I can't keep forgetting all the naughty things that he's done. I can't remember.
Good answer, Billy.
I mean, it's good to see that he's still doing all his videoing after all these years, because he's the guy that uses the video camera on all our dives and produces all the videos. And I was just amazed to see that he was doing that back in the day when you guys were in the guns.
That was in its infancy. It really was. And another thing as well, with George, I always remember George getting all of us down in E-Battery down to the Garrison swimming pool to have a go at Sub-Aqua. So it wasn't a case of, would you like to have a go? It was a case, right, you lot, you're all going to stand by the swimming pool, and then you're going to jump in, and then Sergeant Birch will put a DV on your fucking noggin, and then you'll go into the water like a fish. I don't like swimming, and I don't like going underwater. Anyway, my turn come along. I remember jumping in, and George trying to reassure me and everything. They'd give me a sedative, kept him in and everything. I got in the swimming pool, and he put this mask on me, and he says, well, just put a bit in your mouth and breathe normally, Billy. I held my breath and then put me under the water, and I kept holding my breath. Next thing you know, there's this pain in me fucking kidneys. George has just given me a bloody kidney punch under the water. I emptied the tin in one gulp, I think. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm breathing underwater. I'm not a fish.
Yeah, we didn't really have health and safety, did we, Bill?
God, not in them days. We didn't, did we?
So what he's talking about is that there was a leadership course and there was confidence training, and people had never been on a cylinder. So we went out to Bergen Pool, which was, I think, 3 meters deep, and overweighted them, put a cylinder on and got them to walk across the bottom of the pool and up the ladder on the other side. And it was literally down a ladder, walk across, up the ladder and out. Yeah, and people who couldn't swim were doing it. So it was great fun.
Well, you say I like being on top of the bloody water. I've seen what sort of fish come out of the sea. You shouldn't be in there. You're sort of very low in the apex triangle, aren't you? You are, aren't you?
Well, just a bit, Bill. If no one's got any more questions, should we knock it on the head, or?
Yeah.
Because Billy will carry on talking for hours. He never shuts up.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Billy.
No, you're welcome, all of you, and it's a pleasure to talk to you all. If you look on Blind Veterans UK website, you'll be able to see some of the strange things that our members do, both young and old, and you'll be able to see where I work here in Llandudno and all the stuff that I do. But again, with things like the town crier, I've been furloughed as town crier. Town Hall has said it's dangerous to start shouting in COVID. So yeah, ironically, years ago, my bloody job was to be in the town telling people to socially distance and wash their hands. Now that it's so we've all been retired until the pandemic finishes.
They should get you out there shouting at people to stay at home.
I bloody get me outside Asda, mate. I'll knock a few heads. I tell you, get your bloody mask on. I tell you, the people won't do as they're told, will they? It drives you up the wall.
Yeah.
Billy, thank you so much for doing this, and thank Karen for us, will you?
I will do. She's amazing.
Totally. How she stuck with you, I do not know.
So I've told her I'm an eccentric millionaire, George.
Yeah.
She's still waiting for the payout, I think.
Thing is, Billy, I've got 1,000 stories where I could tell about you.
Jesus, right? I know.
There's some of the things you've eaten, etc. So
well, it's a wonder I've lost my sight. I have eaten many things I've not eaten.
No. Anyway,
that was one of the things the doctors asked me when I was undergoing tests at Southampton Hospital with my sight loss. Have you come into contact with any dead things? And I laughed at it and I said, if it's an elephant or a flea, I've either shot it, ate it, or fucking been chased by it.
Billy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Stop the recording there.